Welcome to our weekly Forex forecast, and this is for trading for the week of February 3rd to the 7th, 2020. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, as usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our Forex factory calendar here. And in terms of overall, first of all, actually, before we dive into that, the overall themes that are going on in the markets at this point will be one around Brexit. So as of January 31st, the Brexit actually happened, all the hoopla about it. Actually, it just happened without too much of fanfare. So at this point, UK is not part of European Union anymore. So they will have to find the trade dynamics. At this point, though, we just need to see how the market will take that. We did see both euro and British pound went up on Friday. At this point, we'll just have to see how the market dynamics play out. So that's something to keep an eye out on. And then we also have the threat of coronavirus going on. World Health Organization declared an international emergency around coronavirus because the number of deaths related to coronavirus have gone up, and number of cases now are estimated over 7,000 cases, or 7,000 people that have been infected with the virus. However, there is no cure for it at this point, and this is what's concerning. And because of that, we are seeing an impact on the markets. So in regards to the coronavirus, if the situation deteriorates and we see more deaths or more people getting infected, that will be negative for the market. So we'll see Japanese yen, Swiss franc go up, gold and silver go up, and equity markets drop. On the other hand, though, if there is a cure that comes out for coronavirus, so because they are working on it at this point, and once they find that cure, that will be very positive for the market. So we should see a risk on market sentiment, which means equity markets will go up, and we are likely to see Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar go up as a result as well, and see Japanese yen and Swiss franc drop as a result. So those are the things that we have to keep in mind as we trade this week. So now let's go on to our news here. We have manufacturing PMI numbers. So lately we are seeing Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar drop because the coronavirus is impacting business in China. So two cities in China, two big cities have been shut down. And as a result, so they have also, or they had extended the Lunar New Year celebrations. Because of that, a lot of stuff is shut down, which means it brings the economy down quite a bit. And because of that, because Australia and China, Australia and New Zealand are big trade partners with China. When there's a problem with China, Australian as well as New Zealand economies are impacted, which means their currency is impacted, and that's why we saw Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar drop. So if the PMI numbers here come in negative or below expectations, then we are likely to see Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar drop as a result of that. And then going into Monday here, we have PMI numbers from a European Union. So if these are below expectations, we are likely to see euro drop. But if they come in above expectations, that will push euro up. So PMI numbers are leading indicators, and they lead to retail sales and the GDP later on. But they are leading indicators. So if leading indicators are coming well, then it will be positive for the currency. We also have ISM manufacturing PMI numbers for the US, and same thing. If we see the numbers are below expectations, then we can expect US dollar to drop as a result. Now, we also have Australian Reserve Bank of Australia rate statement as well as the cash rate. So in the Fed statement, we saw that they expressed concern around coronavirus. And if we hear similar concerns from Reserve Bank of Australia as well, it will have a negative impact on Australian dollar, and we could see it drop. At this point, not really expecting an interest rate cut, but any language in regards to expressing concern around coronavirus and its impact on the economy will be taken as negative for the markets, and we are likely to see Australian dollar drop as a result. All right, for Tuesday here, we have employment data out of New Zealand. With the employment data here, New Zealand dollar has actually taken a hit over the last week because of concerns around Chinese economy as a result of coronavirus. Now, if the employment numbers come in below expectations, we could see New Zealand dollar drop even further. So keep an eye on that. And then the RBA Governor Lau here, so we are likely to see So we're likely to see an impact twice, first with the RBA rate statement, and then also second time when Governor Lau speaks. So if Governor Lau expresses concerns around coronavirus and its impact on the Australian economy, that could be negative for Australian dollar. And then on Wednesday here, we have services PMI numbers for European Union here, and in the Eurozone, services PMI numbers are more important because the economy is more service-based. So if these numbers come below expectations here, that will be negative for Euro and vice versa. And then we have ECB President Lagarde speaking. Now, if she expresses concerns in regards to trade relationship between European Union and UK, or the dynamics around that, that would be considered negative. Or if she expresses concerns around coronavirus, that could also be considered negative. So keep an eye on that. And then we have, this is the first week of the month. So we have ADP non-farm employment numbers. So these are considered to be precursors again to the non-farm payroll numbers, which come out on Friday. So if these numbers come in below the projections here, that will be negative for the US dollar. So keep that in mind. Trade balance numbers here, both for US and Canada. These are important, especially with so much focus on trade relationship and trade wars right now. The trade balance numbers, if they are below expected, they will have negative impact on that currency. So for Canada, if they are they drop below this number, then we will see Canadian dollar drop, and same thing for the US dollar here as well. And we also have ISM non-manufacturing PMI number here for the US. Again, US economy is also mostly focused on services. So these PMI numbers are very important. And if they come in below expectations, that can be negative for US dollar. We also have trade balance numbers and retail sales numbers here for Australia. Same thing, especially with so much focus on trade balance and the trade wars between US and China. If this number is below expectations, we are likely to see Australian dollar drop even further. And then we have another speech here. I don't expect too much impact from the second speech. First speech is generally more important. Same thing here with RBA Governor Lau speaking. The first time is usually more important here. And then we have monetary policy statement. So this one should not be that much different than what we have seen prior in the week. So RBA tends to kind of draw out their monetary policy statement, whereas ECB and Fed, they all keep it tight in one day. But Reserve Bank of Australia tends to release the numbers over the course of the week. So they can, as the numbers come out, generally the first speech and the first numbers have more impact than what comes after that, because market has moved by then. And then we have inflation expectations for New Zealand here. So any type of data that's coming out for Australia and New Zealand at this point becomes more important because of their relationship to the coronavirus. So we could see more of a impact here. And then the trade balance numbers here, these are very important for China. And again, they will have an impact on Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. So if they are above the previous number, so if they're going up, that will be positive for Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. And finally, we have employment. On Friday, we have employment numbers for Canada. These are also generally market moving for Canadian dollar, so something we need to be aware of. And of course, the non-farm employment numbers for the US. These are very important, and they're always market moving. So there are two numbers we need to watch, both the average hourly earnings as well as the employment change. So if the employment drops, then that will be negative for the US, or if the hourly earnings are not moving up, that is also considered negative. But if they come in positive, we're likely to see US dollar go up as a result. So that's what we have in terms of news. There is bits of news that will be important in market moving. So let's go on to our charts now. We'll start with euro dollar. So we saw on Friday that euro dollar went up, and as a result of that, we have a bullish candle close for this. And this one, it could go further, but it will come into resistance right into this 1.1120 level, which is not too far from the current position of this. So keep that in mind. It is bullish at this moment. So first target would be 1.1120, and then this one could go all the way into 1.1220. So it is still trading in that range. So I will look for price to go up, but look for euro to struggle here a bit, but if there is a cure that's found for coronavirus, euro and pound will go up because they're risk-based currencies. So that's something to keep an eye on. All right, so let's move on to pound dollar. This one is also looking bullish here. It is into resistance. If we take a look at it, it's been trading in this range for the last several weeks, and now price is into resistance. So be cautious about that, but it is looking bullish at this moment. Next target is 1.3365. And then above that, we are looking at 1.3500. So bias is bullish at the moment. However, what could happen here is it goes into the next level of support resistance and then comes back. So something to watch out for. Bias is bullish. Another thing to watch out for around British pound would be the whole buy the rumor, sell the news. Now that Brexit is done, we could see those inefficient moves wind down. So if we take a look at our pound here on the 1 hour chart, it's just had this inefficient move to the upside, another inefficient move here. So these can get reversed. So that's something to keep in mind. That's the caution, but overall bias is bullish for pound dollar. Aussie dollar here, this one really got impacted by coronavirus. So at this point, we are right into support here. So bias is bearish. However, as soon as we find that there is a cure found, then this is likely to reverse. But until then, bias is bearish, and we could see something like this. A further drop in Australian dollar. Look for a pullback potentially into 0.6760, and then a further drop target is 0.6520. I would be careful with trading this coming week, and just in regards to the coronavirus issues, because we could see reversals. And then we have New Zealand dollar. This one also had a big drop because of coronavirus. And now this is bearish again, looking for price to drop. It is into support, so keep that in mind. But this one could drop further. First target is 0.6420, and then we are looking at 0.6320. So bearish bias for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here, this one has gone up. US dollar did well last week. Now, this one is also into resistance. So that is something that we need to keep in mind because it could turn around. However, it is bullish at the moment, and I will look for it to go further. Look for a pullback and then a further move higher. 1.3180 is a good level for a pullback. Target here is 1.3350. So bias is bullish for dollar CAD. Euro pound here, this one has dropped, and we have a nice pin bar here. It is into support, so that's something to keep in mind. It can cause reversals because it hasn't really moved below last week's level. So it could turn around if it's not able to break below this. So we need to wait for it to break below that. But bias is bearish. Next target is 0.8280 for euro pound. Euro Swiss franc, this one has been coming down as well. We are into some important levels now. So this could turn around. So something to keep in mind, bias is still bearish. But watch out for potential reversals here, and target is 1.0620. Pound Swiss franc here, this one has been has gone up, but I would not look for too big of a move here unless we see that all the concerns around coronavirus are gone because of a cure found. But other than that, if the same concerns remain, we may see it go all the way into 1.2835 and then potentially come back down. Basically, my bias here is neutral. I'm looking for this to be somewhat range bound in this range between 1.2835 and 1.2550. Looking for it to trade within that range. So I would look for that initial push to the upside. But I would be looking for reversal points here. So neutral bias for pound Swiss franc. Dollar Swiss franc, this one has dropped. So bias is bearish here. Next target is 0.9580. And in terms of pullback here, this 0.9665 level is a good level for a pullback. And then the second target here would be 0.9520. So bearish bias for dollar Swiss franc. Pound yen here, this one has gone up with British pound being strong last week. So bias here is to the upside. Okay, bias here is bullish, and I will look for a move towards 144.50. However, keep in mind, price is very close to our resistance level here at 143.50. This is where price has reacted previously here as well. We had a bullish candle and then it dropped from there. So that would be a place I would watch out for. If it doesn't make it through 143.50, we could see a drop back towards the bottom of this range. This one has also been range bound between 144.50 and 140.80. So in this case, if it fails to go through 143.50, I will look for a move to the downside. But for now, bias is bullish and next target is 144.50. Euro yen, this one has dropped. It is now into support. So we could see a reversal here. So keep that in mind. But now that the Brexit is actually done, this one could drop further, especially if the concerns around coronavirus grow. We're likely to see a drop here. Next target is 118.50. So my bias here is neutral to bearish for euro yen. Dollar yen here, this one is bearish. All the yen crosses will be bearish if coronavirus situation basically gets worse. So that's something to keep in mind here. Okay, so bias here is bearish for for US dollar yen here. Potential pullback into 108.80 and then looking for 107.60 and then 106.60. So bearish bias for dollar yen. Aussie yen here, huge drop in Aussie yen, and it is bearish. First target here would be 71.80 and then 70.6 or 70.70. Potential pullback here into 73 and then looking for a drop. So bearish bias, I would just express again around Swiss franc and yen crosses. They're all bearish right now because of the concern around coronavirus. And as soon as that concern is gone, look for them to shoot up. New Zealand yen, same thing here, big drop. We are pretty much into support, so we could see some reversals here. Watch out for those, but bias still remains to the downside. Next target is 69, and then we're looking at 67.80. So bias is bearish here for New Zealand yen. CAD yen, same thing. All the commodity currencies have been negatively impacted because China is a big consumer of commodities. So with Canada being an oil exporter and China being an oil importer, this is why Canadian dollar is negatively impacted, because the oil has dropped because of the concerns around Chinese economy, because of coronavirus. So as well as Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar have dropped because they also export commodities to China, and China is a big consumer of those commodities. When Chinese economy is not doing well, they get impacted as well. And that's what's going on with commodity currencies. All commodity currencies have dropped. So with this one here, bias is still to the downside. We could get a pullback into 82.50 potentially. First target is 81.20 here, and then we're looking at 80.50, so bearish bias for CAD yen. All right, so that's that's yen crosses. Let's move on to our commodities here. So we are looking at silver first. All right, so the silver has been back and forth this week. We did see a drop and then price has gone back up. With this one, my bias is neutral at this point because it could go in either direction, and a lot of it depends on coronavirus. So we could see another move higher here if the concerns stay in place, but then we could see it come back into the range. So this is a major resistance level. So I'm looking for basically a range bound move here. So bias is neutral for our silver here. Gold has gone up. As we can see, it did a back test and went all the way up. This is still looking bullish here. Next target is 1612. So bullish bias for gold. Oil. Oil has dropped. This is what I was talking about with the concerns around coronavirus. This has been a one-way street for oil. And bias here is still bearish now. Keep in mind, this is very important support level. So we could see price pull off of that support level and go higher, potentially into 53 or even higher still into 53.85. So that will be a pullback level to keep in mind. Next target here would be 49.50. And then below that, we are looking at 47.20. So bias here is bearish for oil. So this is the type of move I would keep an eye out for. Copper here, huge drop in copper as well, all related to this coronavirus. And now still looking bearish here. And 2.44 is the first target. And then we have a lot of room here to the downside. Next target would be 2.37. Again, if coronavirus, as soon as they find a cure, this is likely to reverse directions as well. So look for reversals in in all the commodities, essentially. So copper is likely to go up, oil is likely to go up, and gold and silver are going to drop. Those are the things that we have to watch out for. Bitcoin here, I do not have the weekend activity for Bitcoin. Right now, it is into resistance, so we could see a drop, a further drop down. But once it passes this level here, we could see it go further up into 99.20 level. But look for a bit more of a pullback here towards 89.80. And if it holds above this 89.80 level, I will look for a further move higher. But should it go through, then I will look for move back into this 81.50 area. So at this point, I'm looking for a drop, a bit of a drop towards 89.80, and then we'll have that decision as to which direction it wants to move in. So my bias is bullish, but with caution here. All right. Equities here, we have seen a drop in equities as a result, like I said, of coronavirus here. So based on current information, this is still looking bearish, and first target would be 31.80, then 31.50. Again, as soon as there's some sort of a cure found, expect this one to go back up. So at this point, we could see this type of a move. So watch out for that. But for now, bias is bearish. First target 31.80 and then 31.50 for S&P 500. Nasdaq here, this one has also dropped. And we have a bearish candle here. So bias is bearish. First target is 88.20 and then 86.30. But same thing applies here. We see a cure, it's going up. Same thing with Dow Jones, big drop here, and looking for a further move to the downside. Bias is bearish. It is into support, so watch out for that. We could see a pullback from here, potentially towards 28,460 or 500, and then I would look for a drop here. So bias is bearish here for Dow Jones as well for the moment. DAX, same thing, huge drop here, and we are into support. So this is the support that price has not been able to break in some time. So we could see a move higher from there. But for now, bias is bearish. 12,600 is the first target. 13,000 could be the pullback level here. And then for second target here, we are looking at 12,500. So bias is bearish for now. FTSE here, big drop here. Bias is bearish. It is into support, so keep that in mind. And in terms of a pullback, I will look for 73.20 area as a potential pullback, then looking for basically a further move to the downside here. So bias is bearish, and that's what we are looking for. Again, the caution here with overall markets would be that we see a cure and then everything turns around. So just be cautious with how much of position size you're taking on. This one as well has been very bearish. And next target is 22,480. And then we have 21,880 as the second target. And then we could see 21,350. And in terms of a pullback, I would watch out for 23,000 approximately for a pullback level. And same thing, it's very, very important right now. Markets are very much driven by coronavirus and the outcomes. So if it gets worse, then we will see a further drop. If it gets better and there's a cure, then everything will reverse and we could see like certain reversals in this. So that's why position sizes will be very important. I would suggest keeping your position sizes small, because if you have a heavy position and market reverses because we got some positive news around coronavirus, then this one could basically take off to the upside all the way to the top here, which could be a big move. So very much dependent on what's going on in the market around coronavirus. And as we wrap, so that's it. As we wrap it up, just a quick note here. I will be starting Turning Pro Challenge this week. We are starting with the Turning Pro Challenge. If you would like to join me, it's free. tradingwithvenus.com/turningpro2020 is the link you want to use to download all the materials that I will be using for this challenge. But basically, as part of the challenge, the whole point is that we adopt the behaviors and actions of professionals so that we are able to get similar results as well, which means we will have to do further tracking, trade journals, and so forth. You can look at the materials by following this link. And every week on Friday, I will be doing a I'll be doing an update on my live account. So I will show what positions or where my account is every week at the end of the week on Friday. So that's it. If you guys would like to join me, you can follow along and do the same thing with your own account. You don't have to show it to me, but you can follow along and work on the same process that I will be using. So tradingwithvenus.com/turningpro2020 is the link you want to follow. So that's it for today. You guys have a wonderful weekend and a great trading week, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.